Walled-up rooms, secret chambers and passageways, a dark, closely guarded family secret, a gray lady, a mysterious monster, a hanged man's chamber, ghosts, apparitions, paranormal events. That's pretty much a short summary of the eerie experiences and legends surrounding Glamis Castle. I remember first encountering the subject in the early 90s in the book Atlas of Supernatural, which made a big impression on me at the time. The book referred to it as one of the best documented haunted castles, with many accounts, even then, accepted as credible. Unfortunately, I don't have the book anymore, but thanks to the internet, I may have been able to gather more information for you than it was in that publication. If you liked the video, please subscribe to my channel and be sure to leave a comment with your opinion. Thanks. Glamis Castle in Angus, Scotland, has been the ancestral seat of the Earls of Strathmore and Kinghorn since 1372, when King Robert II granted it to Sir John Lyon. Although the castle has not escaped the vicissitudes of history, it was occupied by Cromwell's troops in 1650, served as a military hospital during the First World War, and was destroyed by fire in the early 19th century and in September 1916. In 1034, King Malcolm II of Scotland was assassinated on this site in a hunting lodge which then stood on the site of the castle. The castle reached its present final form in 1689 after Patrick Lyon, 3rd Earl of Strathmore and Kinghorn, returned home in 1670 and began a complete renovation and refurbishment. The Baroque garden was also laid out at this time. Queen Elizabeth of England spent her childhood in this castle, and her second daughter, Princess Margaret, was born here. But the peaceful and tranquil years were not only lost to the castle, but also to its inhabitants, whose lives were marred by tragedy and cruelty. The chill atmosphere of the castle is also not questioned by visitors, especially after midnight, when all is quiet. Sir Walter Scott, the Scottish poet and writer, was the first person to report that something was wrong with the castle in 1830. This is how he recalls a night spent within the castle walls in the summer of 1793 and the oppressive atmosphere he found there. I must own that when I heard door after door shut after my conductor had retired, I began to consider myself too far from the living and somewhat too near the dead. Moreover, there have been whispers lately that Glamis hides a secret room where a monster lives, and the exact location of the room is known only to the Earl, his heir, and the steward of the estate. Glamis Castle is haunted by a number of ghosts, but it is widely believed that at least 9 ghosts in total live here. How accurate this number is open to debate, but it is certain that several witnesses, completely unrelated to each other, have reported the same phenomena. Some of them had no idea that the castle was haunted and only found out about it after experiencing strange things themselves. I should add that, as is usual, there are several versions of the following legends in circulation, and I will only relate the best-known ones. The Grey Lady is one of the most famous of Glamis ghosts. It is believed that the ghost, known only as Lady Glamis, is the ghost of Janet Douglas, whose first husband was John Lyon, aka Lord Glamis, the owner of the castle. On the death of the Lord in 1528, she was accused of poisoning him, but was eventually acquitted. In July 1537, however, she was accused again of plotting against King James V of Scotland, and together with his brothers, who had been involved in several plots against the king, tried to poison him. Although the charges were false, she and her husband were sent to the dungeons of Edinburgh Castle. The king eventually found no convincing evidence to convict her, so he had her family and servants tortured to find out the truth. Janet was finally condemned and burnt at the stake on the 17th of July, 1537, at Castle Hill, Edinburgh. While her ghost is still seen to this day at the site of her death, her former home, Glamis Castle, is regularly haunted by her. The Grey Lady has appeared in the castle's clock tower, but most often she appears in the castle's private family chapel, praying. There is even a seat dedicated to her where no one from the family is allowed to sit. The chapel is still used today by members of the Strathmore family, and visitors are asked to knock 3 times before entering to avoid frightening the Grey Lady, or they themselves might be frightened. I mentioned at the beginning of the video a deep and dark family secret. Well, legend has it that this secret was discovered centuries ago, quite by accident, by a maid who, instead of keeping quiet about it, went straight to the lord of the manor and confronted him. Some say she even blackmailed her superior, but in the end she paid the ultimate price. The lord, desperate to keep the family secret hidden, ordered his men to silence her. At an unsuspecting moment, they caught the servant, and to make sure she could never speak again, cut out her tongue. The girl then managed to escape, but after running across the courtyard, she was captured again and killed instantly. Well, perhaps not the most famous, but certainly the most seen ghost of Glamis, known only as the tongueless woman. She has been seen wandering the grounds of the castle and inside the castle itself, and peering out from behind one of the castle's barred windows, where her face, disfigured by wounds, and her mouth, which is dripping blood, were clearly visible. I will return to the terrible family secret later. The ghost of a young page boy has been seen several times sitting on a stone stool near the door to the Queen Mother's bedroom. Those who have seen it describe it as a full-fledged apparition, and it has never been sighted anywhere else in the castle. This boy is said to have been notorious for his frequent pranks during his lifetime, such as sneaking up in the middle of the night and pulling the covers off unsuspecting people who were peacefully dozing. Several attempts were made to discipline him, and as punishment he was repeatedly made to sit on a stone stool and ordered not to rise until someone came for him after his punishment had expired. On a cold winter's night, the young boy was put again on the stool, but everyone forgot about it, and eventually everyone went to bed without the boy being ordered to bed. Why the boy didn't get up is open to question. Perhaps he was afraid of a harsher punishment, but legend has it that he froze to death during the night and was found the next day still sitting on the stone. And his ghost has haunted ever since, and is as impudent and mischievous as he was in life. He is said to have a habit of sticking his foot out in front of unwary visitors who enter the room, so they stumble and fall. The most notorious ghost at Glamis Castle is Alexander Lindsay, 4th Earl of Crawford, also known as Earl Beardy. He was a notoriously cruel man who regularly beat and humiliated his servants. One day, for the sheer fun, he and his friends stripped one of the black servants naked and ordered him to run around the castle grounds, but the fun soon turned into a hunt. The unfortunate servant was chased by the Earl, his friends, and their hounds, and when he was caught, he was torn to shreds. The servant's spirit seems to have been restless by his violent and senseless death since then, as he can still be seen running around the corridors in a panic. But there is another legend linked to the cruel Earl. The man was a heavy drinker and loved to play cards. One day he was thoroughly drunk and was demanding to play cards with him, but no one wanted to sit down to play. He cursed and shouted that he would play cards till doomsday. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a man in a black cloak appeared and said he would like to play a game or two with him. According to reports, after a while there was shouting and swearing from the room they were in. One of the servants peeped into the keyhole to see what was going on, but almost immediately took his eyes away, for he saw a light inside so bright that he is said to have been instantly blinded by it. It was then that whispers began to circulate that the mysterious man in the black cloak was the devil himself, who had taken the Earl's soul that night. Connected to this legend is the dark shadow who was often seen in the castle and was known to wake sleeping children in the middle of the night by bending over their beds. Many believe that he still plays cards in one of the castle's secret rooms. Sometimes his angry shouts can even be heard throughout the castle. In Glamis, there is a room where almost without exception, everyone who goes there feels a strong sense of unease in the air, a kind of eerie atmosphere. The key to this lies in events centuries ago, when terrible clan wars tore Scotland apart. None was as violent as the feud between the Ogilvy and Lindsay clans. In one such clash, the Ogilvies fled to Glamis Manor and asked the Lord to hide them. The Lord did not want to risk denying their request, but he also did not want to incur the wrath of his own clan by actually hiding their enemies. The Lord led them into a room, according to other sources, a cell in the dungeon, and then double-locked the door, leaving the refugees to starve to death. A few weeks later, some servants heard strange noises coming from the room, so they set out to investigate the source of the sounds. Since the Lord was away, they opened the door themselves when they found it. They were shocked to find a pile of rotting corpses in the room. Only one person was still alive, though barely. He had survived for weeks by eating the flesh of his dead relatives. The castle also has another room, known only as the Hangman's Room. The story goes that a butler once hanged himself here, and his ghost has been present ever since, scaring the living daylights out of anyone who sees him. Faces appear in the windows of the room, and noticeably colder spots can be felt in certain parts of the room. A bent old woman is also said to have been seen in the area adjacent to the room, carrying a bundle of clothes into the middle of the courtyard before disappearing. Booms, bangs, and other knocking noises are also quite common in Glamis. But what is this terrible, dark family secret that has been the stuff of legend for at least 200 years? Well, it's the monster of Glamis. This monster was in fact a severely deformed child whom various researchers and historians now believe to be the firstborn son of Thomas Bowes Lyon and his wife Charlotte Lyon Bowes. Thomas, who was to be the rightful heir to the title and estate. However, the public has been told that the child was stillborn on the 21st of October 1821, but there is reason to believe that the child did not actually die. James Wentworth Day, in his 1967 book The Queen Mother's Family Story, wrote that the birth of the child was spread in local villages following the account of a midwife who claimed that the deformed child was alive when she left, but that he was announced dead a day or two later, so there was no stillbirth. If the very few people who saw him are to be believed, the child was born with a huge deformity. His chest was huge, hairy as a monkey's, and his head was straight into his shoulder, with virtually no neck. The monster's arms and legs were abnormally vestigial. Only 3 people knew of his existence, and they had the difficult task of keeping him hidden. The monster was hidden in a small room or chamber near the castle chapel and lived there in complete isolation. He allegedly was only allowed out at night to breathe fresh air and walk in the park. After the monster died, the Lord had the chamber walled up so no one would be able to find it. It is said that Glamis's monster still haunts the parapet of the castle, known as the Mad Earl's Walk, and the castle's battlements. But it is not only the aforementioned unusual and disturbing things that the castle is known for. There's a lion-shaped silver cup, the Lion Cup, which holds about a pint of wine. In the old days, it was the custom for all guests to empty the cup before leaving. If someone didn't want to drink from it, they were made to feel, though they weren't told, that they couldn't leave until they had drunk the juice they had poured into it. Sir Walter Scott, the writer I mentioned earlier, also had the honor of drinking from the cup to the health of the absent Earl. River Dean runs through the estate, which looks more like a stream in this stretch. It is often referred to locals as the Dowie Dean, or mournful or ominous Dean, because of the legend associated with it. According to one version, the river claimed 1 life every year. Another version said it took 1 life 1 year and spared another the next, and a third version said a man drowned in it every 7 years. Well, what is true about the castle's eerie legends, or which of the countless versions of them is the closest to the truth, is hard to find out, and after all these centuries, not really possible. What is certain, however, is that the haunted apparitions have been occurring for over 200 years. Just think of Sir Walter Scott's experience in 1793, so it is certainly not to boost tourism to the castle. Indeed, the castle is nowadays more of a tourist attraction than a residence for the Strathmore family, and visitors are offered a variety of activities and tours. The question is, do you think Glamis Castle is a real haunted castle? Or do haunted castles or ghosts and spirits even exist? Have you ever experienced a similar phenomenon yourself, which you still can't explain? I look forward to your opinions in the comments. Don't forget to check back for my previous videos. Subscribe and like the video if you liked it. Thank you very much for your kind attention.